Good evening, Warriors, and welcome into another edition of the R&R Sports Report. My name is Randy Isbell. With me, mostly as always, but he is back, Mr. Robert Hagan. Man, it's good to have you back.
It is good to be back. It's been a long few days, but glad to be back and talk a little sports here.
Absolutely. I obviously you have been busy and you got stuff going on in your personal life and dealing with the unfun parts of life. But I have to say, I think you and I watch about the same amount of sports, which is not a lot. So it's going to be really fun to talk about sports this week. Luckily, we're starting with the NFL, and I did get to watch a lot of NFL this weekend. But once we get to some of these other sports, volleyball got in the way, and getting ready for Green Bay got in the way, and there's a lot going on.
Yeah,
a lot going on.
Lots going on, and I want to thank you and thank Trevin for sitting in for me last week. Thought I was going to get to squeeze over here after junior high football. That didn't happen, and I want to send out to a lot of folks, a lot of messages, friends, family, people who listen to the show with the passing of my mom. So we do appreciate that. And so thank you. And, this is where she'd want me to be tonight. So let's do some show. Let's do some sports.
Let's get right to it. Also, before we get in, we don't have to talk about all the sad things going on, but that just seems what's going on. We want to give out our thoughts to the family and friends, obviously, of Aubriana Hoffman and Maggie Ogden, who were also in a car wreck yesterday. You broke that news to me before volleyball. Just a horrible situation down there, freshmen down there in college, and get into a car wreck that, from everything that I've seen, had nothing to do with them. Just wrong place, wrong time. Some idiot driver out there got them, and we feel terrible, obviously, for their loss of life, and then obviously what those families and friends have to go through and what the Clarkson High School has to be going through right now.
Yeah, I haven't made it back to school yet, and I'm hoping that is a tomorrow thing. We'll see how that goes, but lots of things going on, and the girls had just started. I believe last week was their first week on campus at Grand Canyon, and just seeing the outpouring, even from the school of freshmen folks down there. So our thoughts are out with Aubriana Hoffman, Woodbury family, along with Maggie Ogden, where, I get to work, and I'm blessed to work with Pat and Samantha on a daily basis. So my thoughts and prayers go out to them and in a tough situation down there.
All right. Now let's get into the fun stuff. Let's talk about some sports. Let's talk about Monday Night Football, a game that I was not neither of us were able to watch live, as you came over and were my color guy for volleyball, and we had a lot of fun watching LC win that one. But I did watch the highlights of this game earlier today, and it looked like a wild one. Kansas City does defeat Las Vegas 30-29 after Vegas were up 17-0. I want to say it was at one point. Nice job by the Chiefs to turn things around.
I'm trying to remember what you showed me your phone. We were in the middle of a break, and I don't remember if it was a timeout or if it was a set change, and you showed me the phone, and it's like, oh, here we go again. And Las Vegas was up big.
Yeah, it was either 14-0, 17-0 about that point. Chiefs were able to make it 20-10. At halftime, they outscore the Raiders 14-0 there in the third. They do some interesting coaching decisions, and I don't know if you have seen these highlights at all, because obviously you got a lot going on, but I'm just going to walk you through it. Kansas City scores it. They're up by 1. Kansas City's up 24-23, and they score a touchdown with 7:25 to go in the fourth quarter. So they go up by 7 points.
Right.
And they do what I have been screaming to the rafters for years to do. Go for 2. Go for 2. If you convert it, now you're up by 9. It's a 2-possession game.
Right.
We have half a quarter left to play. You don't get it, it's still a 7-point game. You're fine. Yes, you do leave the door open for the other team to go down, score a touchdown. They can go for 2, and if they get it, all of a sudden you're trailing. But we know what Kansas City can do offensively. I love this call, even though it didn't work out.
Yeah, I think there, from the little bit that I saw, the biggest thing is the play calling for what Bieniemy is doing in the second halves. Even the game last week too. You look at how after his and Patrick Mahomes, I wouldn't call it a debacle, but their little tiff that they had, a couple weeks about letting him, control the offense, and you get down there. Patrick Mahomes is probably one of the best quarterbacks that we'll see in our generation, and he just moved that ball down there to get the field goal. So, I mean, going into the end of a game, yeah, I would gladly put the ball in his hand every time.
Yeah, especially in that situation, try to make it a 2-possession game. They don't get it, so it's still a 7-point game. Raiders go right down the field. Beautiful throw by Derek Carr to Devontae Adams. We'll talk more about Adams later on in the show. Big 48-yard touchdown there. So now it's a 1-point game. So what do the Raiders do with 4:27 to go? They go for 2, trying to take the lead on Kansas City. I question this call just because of how much time is left. Now, you go for 2. There's 4:27 left on the clock. Because Kansas City can just go right down the field. That's just what they do. So I think there's too much time on the clock for you to put yourself in a situation where you could still trail. I love it going up by 2 possessions because that really changes the way the rest of the game goes. Now, the Raiders are in all-out blitz mode because they have to score twice now in the 7 minutes instead of once. But here, you leave the door open that you can there's not as much to gain, I think, in that situation. Sure, you go for 2, you get it. You're leading. That's great.
Right.
But now you're giving Mahomes 4.5 minutes to just methodically go down the field and kick a field goal to win it if he wants, or he can score a touchdown because that's just what he does. And Travis Kelce was a monster in that game, had 4 touchdown catches. So to me, it was too much time left to possibly still be trailing in that game if you don't convert like they did not.
Yeah, I think it becomes a clock management thing, like you were saying, earlier in the day, earlier in that quarter, when there's a bunch of time left, I can see that going. But you've got to put points on the board, tie it up, hope your defense can get some pressure, whether or not Crosby had a great game again too, can he keep the pressure on in that, so I think it all boils down to where's the clock at and all this.
Oh yeah, if we're inside a minute, yes, Kansas City can score in 17 seconds. We've seen that, but you're inside a minute and you're trying to avoid dealing with a coin flip with Kansas City, and you're like, all right, we're just going to win or lose the game right here. I'm go for it.
So is it a thing that we think maybe is it the youth of Josh McDaniel being a head coach? He tried.
And I'm sure there's analytics in there that show different things, and when you're on the road, and we'll talk about analytics in a minute with another interesting call by a young coach. But again, I'm with it in different situations, and you take 4 minutes off that clock, sure, absolutely, go for it. Just win it here or don't win it here. But I just think the risk reward didn't quite even out the scales to me with 4 minutes to go against a Kansas City team that can score points in bunches.
Yeah, kick it, and then you already got pretty much 2 other guys that are hot last night. From what little bit I saw, you've got Travis Kelce, who was on fire, beast mode with that, and Scantling looked halfway decent. And that's one thing that they're finding with this new receiving core is they can just throw it anywhere here. In each week, it's been somebody different. So,
all right, let's go to Sunday night football, and your Baltimore Ravens come away with a 19-17 win. From what I got to watch, because obviously, we had the bowling league on Sundays, so I kind of watch it here and there.
You mean they got the TVs fixed?
They finally got the TVs fixed. Okay. Just because you weren't there. They'll be broken next week, so don't worry about it. But they did have the TVs fixed, so they had them on different channels. So one TV was like 2 seconds ahead of the other TV, which we had a lot of fun with. But I was able to watch bits and pieces of it. My bowling matchup ended up being really close, and so we kind of tried to focus in on that. And there's a lot of trash talking because Richie was our opponent. We had a lot of fun. But from what I watched, very, very good game. I don't think either team can really hang their head low. It obviously a loss is a loss, and I mean, there's no moral victories, and it's not like, oh, you almost won that game, so we're gonna give you partial credit or anything. So for Cincinnati, you are 2-3 now, but very hard fought game. It comes right down to the end, and Justin Tucker for MVP.
Well, I would agree with all the comments here that everybody's been talking about. When he gets there, he'll be a first ballot Hall of Famer once his career.
Can a kicker be a first ballot Hall of Famer?
Well, listen, when you put up and you kick 91% on your field goals, 85% from 50 yards or out, I mean, those are some big.
No, I agree. And he is the only kicker. And we'll get to another game where it looked like a team was going to went up with the kicker, and the kicker misses it.
Right.
And with Tucker, it's like the moment he starts walking out there, if it's anywhere within 65 yards, you're like, oh, this is money. Anything outside 65 yards is like, well, he's going to have to actually try.
Well, they were talking about it. I had it on this morning as I was trying to do a little bookwork. Earlier
was Ray Guy a first ballot Hall of Famer, Denny? I just know he's a Hall of Famer, but
the one thing that they were talking about is where he kicked that ball. He was only basically 5 inches off of center. I mean, he's very deadly. Must be.
Oh, did that go or not? Oh, that's close.
Wait,
do not get Josh Donaldson in a rundown. He's old.
Did that
Randy has or not? I'm sorry. The Yankees Guardians are playing game. And if this is a home run, everyone talks about Yankee Stadium. Oh, the short porch in Yankee Stadium. This is the shortest of short porches. If this ends up being a home run, I'll turn this TV around so Robert can possibly see the replay while I talk about this for a second. They ended up calling Josh Donaldson out on this play at the moment, but we will see, because obviously they're going to review it. It's the playoffs. But if this ends up being a home run, which it's not,
it looks like it went right off the top of the wall.
Did it hit off that Bud Light case?
Nope.
No, that's an out. That's an out.
He is out. It should be an out.
Unless that fan touched it. We'll see. We will see. Richie's probably blowing my phone behind me. That was a crazy play. We'll see how things go.
But to finish up with Justin Tucker, I really think that guy, what he can do, and listening to Good Morning Football this morning and where they were talking about how he kicked that ball and how close he was to perfectly center and to where he was at on the field. They played an interview off the Sunday night thing, and he said the first 1.3 seconds is what matters the most.
I was going to bring that up.
It's can his new guy, both new guys, you got a new long snapper and a new holder. So this guy has been pretty automatic, and I think he eventually will be probably a first ballot Hall of Famer, especially with the percentages of him. They say 85% of his kicks that are 50 yards or more, you're pretty well good to go.
Yeah, there you go. See, not first ballot. I'm saying he's a Hall of Famer for sure. I don't know about first ballot because he's a kicker, but I agree. I love that interview with him, and I was going to bring that up as well. Also, Josh Donaldson needs to just be benched. I mean, yes, we all thought it was a home run.
You can have Joey Gallo back.
And the first base coach gave him a high five. That's hilarious to me.
Give Joey Gallo, get him back. You can have him again.
So
still looking at
it. He's out. They just ruled it. That stinks. So it was not touched by a fan. So it's not a ground rule double. So it's a single for Josh Donaldson, and then it gets thrown out. That's bottom of the fifth, tied at 1. I saw more stress coming my way. Let's go to some of the other games. Philadelphia remains undefeated. They defeat Arizona 20-17. Cardinals had a chance for a game-tying field goal, and they missed it, and they set themselves up. He needs to, man.
That is great, Danny.
He does that so often where he thinks he hits a home run, and even if that was a home run, it shouldn't have been a home run. That, again, Yankee short porch, that was a key definition. But, yeah, Cardinals did everything they could at home to get that upset, set up the kicker to send it into overtime. I'd picked Arizona to take that upset. Just missed off the mark there.
That's what helped catch me up.
Yeah. Dallas defeating the Rams 22-10. I also got this pick wrong. I know Robert Taylor told me that this was his big upset.
Should we be scared of them not making the playoffs?
The Rams?
Yes.
I'm not sure yet. I need to go back and look what they did last year because I want to say they started out slow last year too. And kind of started to pick things up a bit. Because obviously they are very reliant on Cooper Kupp right now. And Allen Robinson just cannot get open.
Done anything yet.
He cannot get open. So maybe give him a little bit of time. I want to say the Rams started off pretty slow. I know the Bengals did, obviously. And they were not a Super Bowl contender in our eyes at the beginning. So I am not ready to write them off. It is getting a little worrisome, I think, if you're a Rams fan. But you're 5 weeks in. You have a long ways to go. IKF with a nice triple, so that's great. Would have scored a run if Josh Donaldson would have, ran the bases when he hit that ball. But I'm not super worried about the Rams yet. The NFC is still pretty weak. But Philadelphia is a bit stronger than we expected.
Mm-hmm.
The Giants, we'll talk about in a second. 4-1. I still don't know if I believe it or not, but they're 4-1.
We'll believe it. We'll talk about it in a minute.
And this Dallas Cowboy team, we love to hate on the Dallas Cowboys. We love to hate on the Dallas Cowboy fans.
Yeah, I think it's more the fans.
Because they overreact to everything. I am not a Dallas Cowboy fan. Not even close. We should be worried about this Dallas Cowboy team.
I think with what Cooper Rush is doing.
No, not Cooper Rush.
Yeah,
I don't care. Cooper Rush. I don't care. Dak Prescott. I don't care if Robert Hagan is the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. It's that defense.
It's Micah Parsons right now. What Micah is doing. And just, I know we had the game on a little bit there Sunday. We were going through some stuff and doing things, but just watching what they were doing with him, shifting around the local boy, Van Der Esch, what he was doing to get some pressure on the quarterback there against Stafford was.
Yeah.
How are they doing it? That's what
they are stacked at defense. Parsons is absolutely fantastic, and the players around him are no JV players. They got a legit top 3 defense in the league, if not top 1 defense in the league. The only touchdown they gave up to the Rams was on Cooper Kupp making a fantastic kind of circus catch where he got behind his defender just a little bit and then ran it 60-some yards. Yankees with a 2-1 lead.
I'm looking here. You've got DeMarcus Lawrence, Armstrong, Anthony Barr, Leighton Van Der Esch, Michael Parsons, and Anthony Brown.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's a good defense.
5 front right now.
Yeah, it's a good, very, very good defense. Secondary's no joke.
Yeah. Trayvon Diggs.
I'm not saying that I'm going to believe them in the playoffs, but neither of us picked them to make the playoffs, and I think we both made a mistake.
Well, we're still early.
We are still early.
We got 18. There's 18 weeks, 17 weeks played. We're 5 in, so there's still 12 games to go.
There's a long ways to go. I think we both made a mistake. Tampa Bay held on to defeat Atlanta 21-15. We'll talk about the bad roughing the passer call because that has become a bit of an issue. I mean, it's always been an issue. We always talk about how the quarterbacks are babied back there.
Right.
I
love his comment today.
Obviously that one is bad, but the one thing that I think the referee noticed was it was kind of that same spin move that the defender did against Tua. Now, Tua kind of straightened out and landed really hard on his back and bounced his head off the ground and ended up with a bad concussion. And I think the ref just saw that spinning motion, which you cannot blame the Atlanta player for. He wraps him up the way you're supposed to, spins him around to take him down. Their feet tangle up and down they go. It's nowhere near a bad hit, nowhere near an illegal hit. Should not have been called. But I think that's what the ref was looking for, was that spinning motion where it looks like he's trying to throw Brady to the ground. He's not, but I think that's what the ref is for. I have a solution to this, and we'll get to it once we get through the games. But
does that include the Chris Jones call yet?
Yes.
Last night?
Yeah, that's a horrible one too.
I mean, you can see the ball is coming out of his hands.
Well, it's not that the ball comes out.
His whole weight comes. It doesn't. His weight. He has a lot of it, but you're telling me 360-pound guy.
He lands square on Carr.
You can see it,
but there is a different that part of the roughing the passer rule. I think the way it was supposed to be interpreted is those that really lay it in
Right.
and drop that shoulder on them and really try to drive them in. But now it gets called of, oh, you tackled him and landed on him.
Yeah.
And I don't think there was nothing he could have done at that point to not land on Derek Carr. But I think that's the other thing. We'll get to it, and I do have an idea for it. How about my New York Jets?
Dude.
Now, it is not the blowout that the final score says, 40-17. But that fourth quarter was fantastic. Yes, Teddy Bridgewater goes out in the very first play of the game on a safety, where the Tua rules are really starting to take place. Teddy passes all the concussion tests, but because the independent guy in the booth saw him, we don't see it on camera at any point.
Right.
But whoever it was said that they saw him kind of stumble a little bit. It's an automatic, you're not playing in the game. I have to say, obviously, it helped my Jets because then the third string guy comes in. But Teddy Bridgewater wasn't trying to tackle Breece Hall, and the Miami Dolphins just could not do that. I'm just going to throw that warning out there to all NFL fans. This is how it's going to go with concussions now. Mm-hmm. They are going to err on the side of caution because of how dangerous that Tua hit looked. And we all freaked out about it. All of us did. Mm-hmm. So now, if anyone's even close, I don't care who it is, they will not come back in that game. Patrick Mahomes comes out and kind of stumbles there for a second. I don't care if he can go out and write an essay at a halftime. They will not let him come back in. And we better be prepared to go, you know what, NFL, thank you for siding on the side of caution. And we're not going to be mad at you for not letting Mahomes back in.
I'm trying to remember. I want to say, because we had, like I said, we had the TV on in the background on Sunday at the house, and Denise and I were watching something, looked up and I want to say it was probably the New Orleans Saint game where the one player, you watch him go for a catch, he gets wrapped up and hits hard.
Yeah, Olave, yeah.
And hits his head on, and you see his arms just kind of.
Yep.
And he ended up coming back in the game.
No, he didn't.
Did he not?
No, he was done.
I like I said,
he got that. He was credited. He was credited with the touchdown.
Yeah,
but I'm almost positive he did not come back.
I want to say it was late in the game, if I remember. Yeah, right. It's like third quarter or something like that.
But yeah, just looking good. 3-2.
I'm excited for you to go watch this.
I have.
This week.
It's a weird feeling, but I have slight optimism. It was coming into this week. I talked about it last week. It was like, obviously it was supposed to be Teddy Bridgewater. Ended up being the third string quarterback, but it was like playing Miami without Tua. Then you're playing Green Bay, who is really struggling lately, and they can't get their offense going, and their running defense is horrible, and that's what the Jets do right now. And then
the family is not very good.
After you go to Lambeau, you go to Mile High, and we saw that train wreck on Thursday night. I have optimism, and it's weird.
Well, you got optimism, but you still got the Buffalo Bills in your division. We'll leave it at that.
Hey, at least tell me to be kind.
Well,
no, we're not Buffalo Bill good.
Listen,
by any means.
You look at, and we'll talk about the schedule coming up for this week. Mm-hmm. That's one of the games I'm kind of excited to.
Could be interesting
to actually try to watch this weekend.
Zach Wilson has no touchdown passes, does rush for one, but does not throw an interception. I think that's the bigger key. He has 0 touchdown passes because they ran it in 5 times. But Breece Hall looks so good.
That kid out of Iowa, man. And they even talked to Tyler Lindenbaum about him, the center that, played with him. He plays for Baltimore. And they even talked with him about how he's playing. And he's just like, this kid's a beast.
And I took the year off of fantasy football, but I'm just telling you all right now, go out and trade for Breece Hall.
I have Breece on.
Maybe not this week because he looks so good. His price is going to be really high after 197 yards. But go out and trade for him at some point this season because the Jets play Seattle, week 16?
I think
so. Was it week 15, week 16 in the fantasy football playoffs? And anybody that has not watched the Seattle Seahawks play, Seahawks cannot tackle anybody. Anybody. Detroit ran all over them last week, and then New Orleans beats them 39-32. Taysom Hill's breaking tackles left and right. They made him look like Adrian Peterson.
Breece Hall was expected to get 11.9 points. I ended up getting 26.7 points.
And you should have got more. He got vultured on 3 touchdowns. He was tackled at the 1 3 times.
Well, I also had Austin Eckler. We'll talk about that game here in a few minutes. Austin Eckler gets me 60.
It's not bad.
Not bad.
But yeah, Seattle cannot tackle.
They're terrible.
Geno Smith is not the problem.
Listen,
he's been good.
You and I have been talking about this since February. He is not. That team is not good.
No.
And I saw 2 Seahawks fans on my Facebook on Sunday afternoon saying, this team, I don't know. I said, we've been talking about it since February. They need a lot of help.
They are performing slightly better than I was expecting because Geno has not been He has not been the New York Jets version of Geno Smith, and he has been okay. Ken Walker looked really, really good against New Orleans, and obviously now it's going to be up to him as Rashad Penny is out for the season with a broken fibula. But their run game's going. Their offense is okay. It's their defense. It's why Seattle and Detroit was such a fun game because neither of them can play defense. And then Detroit plays New England, and their offense completely gets shut out, 29-0. So my question to you as we go through it, and we'll kind of move through this one pretty quick. You and I have already used New England in our eliminator game.
I know, yeah.
Are you a little worried about that one?
I don't think so.
I'm not fully worried yet.
I'm not fully worried.
But I'm kind of disappointed that I took them already, and I should have waited a little bit.
Knowing what your team is doing right now and what Josh Allen did, I just looked at his stats.
That's fine. I mean, the Jets are doing better than we expected, but the Raiders are doing worse than we expected. The Broncos are doing worse than we expected. The Chargers are struggling. So we thought, okay, the AFC West is going to take 2 wild card teams at least. And then we were thinking, whoever didn't win the AFC North between Baltimore and Cincinnati.
Right.
So we were thinking, okay, there's your wild cards. Yes, there might be an extra wild card or 2 in there. It'd be cool if the Jets made it, but
so
the Patriots could.
So what do you think? And you bring up Denver, and I'll say it here.
Yep.
And I thought about this as I was doing my paperwork this morning is it the new look of Russell Wilson playing in a different division that might be, because we've said this for a couple of years now. AFC is significantly better than the NFC. Is this a thing that we're seeing that Russell Wilson's finally seeing for the first time? Well, I mean, they do play other AFC teams, but
I just don't know if he's focused in with what Denver's trying to sell. That team just looks completely off. The play calling is horrible. The Russell, we'll just get through this Thursday night game right now, and then we'll finish up with the other 2 that we're going to talk about. But the Richard Sherman post-game rant is perfect. And Mr. Fitzpatrick is just a treasure. I don't know if you have seen this yet.
I don't have Amazon Prime, so I don't watch it.
So obviously 4th and 1. They don't run the ball again, which is Russell Wilson and Seattle in the Super Bowl. And poor Richard Sherman is part of this, the little desk team that they have there for the pregame and postgame and halftime show and stuff for Amazon. And they go to him and he's just run the ball. And he's losing his mind. And Ryan Fitzpatrick turns to one of his co-hosts and goes, "Did anybody know what he's talking about?" I lost it. It's so good. But no, Colts, Broncos, probably the worst game I've ever seen.
It was just
absolutely
flash up scores on my phone was weird.
Absolutely ugly. No touchdowns at all there. Chargers beat the Cleveland Browns 30-28. You were happy with your man going absolutely nuts. But I want to ask Brandon Staley. Yes, we can applaud the guts of some of the moves that he makes, and he's super aggressive. But it's 4th and 1. You're winning 30-28 with 1:20 to go on your own side of the football. And they go for it. And they don't run the ball. I think they threw it, if I remember right.
Yeah, they threw it.
So now you give Cleveland a whole minute to have to go 10 yards instead of punting the ball away. Luckily, Cleveland only got a few yards and then missed a 54-yard field goal, so he survives. But I think if they lose that game, his head is on the chopping block at this point.
I think so too. I mean, if you're going to go for it on your own 46, 4th and 1, you better have a different play call than throwing the ball.
Mm-hmm.
But with basically 70 seconds left, kick the ball, try to pin it down deep, and make Cleveland and Nick Chubb run the ball, pass the ball. I mean, it absolutely bonkers play calling.
Absolutely. And then finally, the London game, I didn't get to watch the first half, but watched a bit of the second half. Giants beat Green Bay 27-22. All I've been hearing is Green Bay just stopped running the ball in the second half. Yeah, that needs to be their thing that they go back to, especially when you have Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. The young wide receivers still do not have the trust of Aaron Rodgers. I'm not worried about this team yet as far as making the playoffs. Maybe going as far as I was predicting them to go could be an issue. But like you said, it's 5 weeks in. Rodgers has used the old 5-letter word relax several times throughout his career. I think they will turn it around. It could be on Sunday while I'm there watching live. But my bigger question to you is, are the Giants real?
And
their only losses to Dallas.
They're going to get they're going to get a different look this weekend as they play Baltimore, and will be in New York, I believe. But if you look at, let's focus for a second on Green Bay. Yes, they have the Jets next week, and here in just a few days.
Yep.
Then they get the Commanders at Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Then you play Buffalo.
Eesh.
Yeah. And then you have a division matchup in Detroit, which should be a win.
Mm-hmm.
But then you got to play Dallas in the game of the week.
Could be a good one.
And so they don't have an easy trip other than, I think, the Washington game next week, and then 2 weeks from that, the Detroit one. So it'll be interesting. And if New York can keep playing the way they are, I think they've got a great chance. Yes, they have Baltimore this week. They play at home, and then they get the Jaguars, then they get the Seahawks, then they get the Texans, then they get the Lions. They have a soft next month schedule. If you don't like New York, you better hold on, because I got a funny feeling they're going to be leading by Halloween. If not,
no. They're not going to lead the division.
Oh yeah, no. I think they've got a good.
Not with Philadelphia and Dallas there, not at all. All right, let's. We're 5 weeks in.
5 weeks.
We used to do a full power rankings on the Facebook page. It's too much work, and nobody ever looked at them. But let's do our top 5.
All right,
just for fun. Go for it. Give me your top 5 NFL teams right now.
I looked and I called them, and at number 5, and it was the team that I told everybody, I was like, watch this team. They're going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
And right now they're right there, 4-1. Minnesota.
They almost made mine.
I'm impressed with what they've been doing, even with Kirk Cousins. But Dalvin Cook has been running the ball quite well. I just like that. At 4, I've got San Francisco. And Jimmy G is I don't know if he's trying to prove something to the owners and just say, hey, look what I can do here. So they've been playing quite well. And then I've got the Kansas City Chiefs. I've got them down a little bit. I'm down at 3. They have proven that they can be, once they've gotten their body up against the wall, they're going to come back fighting. And ever since that whole Bieniemy thing with Mahomes, it looked totally different this last week. Then give me the 5-0 Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles. I like them at the 2 spot. They played quite well. And then at number 1, after his unbelievable week, Buffalo Bills at the number 1 spot in my power rankings, with Baltimore just ever so slightly 6-7. Did they hit a home run?
Anthony Rizzo just 2-run shot after Aaron Judge stole second.
Aaron Judge steals ball.
Yeah, absolutely. He almost had 20 stolen bases this year.
Crazy.
All right. You ready for my top 5?
I think yours is going to be pretty close.
Ready?
Okay.
J-E-T-S. Jets. No, just kidding.
Listen, I would have them in the top, easily probably top 10 right
15, maybe. No, not top 10. But maybe top half. Maybe.
Definitely top half.
Top half. All right.
Definitely
San Francisco, I agree with you. I think long term, the Trey Lance injury kind of sucks. They wanted to see what they had with him. But Garoppolo is more ready now. This team is ready to win now. I think their chances for the Super Bowl improved when Trey Lance went down because Jimmy G has been there before. My number 4 team, and I hate to say it, it's the Dallas Cowboys. Ooh. That defense is legit.
All right.
And I think in a weaker NFC, they could be a contender. Now, when we get to playoff time, will they be the Dallas Cowboys and choke again? We will see. But right now, they're the number 4 team. Philadelphia, even though they're undefeated, I'm going to have them at 3. I like what they're doing. I like Jalen Hurts is an MVP candidate right now. I think I have him behind Josh Allen, but I don't really look at all the stuff till about halfway through the season. So just from the eye test, from what I have seen from them, I think Josh Allen would probably be my MVP. But like I've told Robert Taylor before, it's like I don't even look at any of that and like make a legit MVP case for anybody until at least halfway. But he's going to be in that conversation, I think, once we get to that. And Philadelphia has been pretty good, but I don't think better than these other 2 teams. I'm actually going to have Buffalo 2.
Yeah.
And it's not going to matter after this week because these 2 teams play each other.
Right.
And I'm really sad that I don't get to watch it because, I'm going to have a lot of fun. But of course, it's on the same week as the biggest regular season game we have all year. Buffalo's ridiculous. The one thing I worry about with Buffalo is those close games. They're not winning those close games. They didn't last year. They haven't yet this year. They can blow teams out. And especially when you play a bad team like Pittsburgh, they're going to look completely dominant, but win a close game. Kansas City to me is the best team in the NFL. Like Dallas, it pains me to say that just because then I have to hear Robert Taylor, but they're winning in all aspects. I mean, yes, they had that kind of downer game against Indy, and every team is going to have a game or 2 like that. And only haters are going to like really rely on those kind of games. Go, yeah, well, they lost to the Colts. Well, the Colts all of a sudden have a decent enough record. They're terrible to watch, but they have a decent enough record. To me, the Chiefs can blow you away. They can win a close game, and you can jump out 17-0 on them, and you're still not comfortable because they're going to come back and win.
I think they have 3 tough matchups. The next 3, looking at their schedule, they've got
the Ravens mascot.
Buffalo this week. Then they travel out to San Francisco. They play San Francisco with Jimmy G.
They've got tough game.
And then they go back home and they've got Derrick Henry. So could be easily a 3-0 over the next 3. Could easily be
they could lose all 3. And then obviously they would move down. I'm with Robert Taylor where people overreacted when Tyreek Hill went. I was curious to see what this offense was going to be like. Now, listen, this offense is completely different without Tyreek Hill. I think it's more balanced. I think they rely on the running game a bit more. Travis Kelce has shown that it's not just Tyreek Hill who's creating space for him to get open. He's finding just ridiculous ways to get open, and he dominated.
And he's 33 yeyears old, and he's making these plays.
But he is Mr. Reliable. Yeah. And you get MVS out there and Juju out there, and you can. It used to be they spread it out quick with Hardman and Hill,
right?
And they would just do streaks, and then the middle of the field would be for CEH and Kelce. Now everything's kind of jam-packed in a little bit, but they got some good pass catchers. Mahomes can fit it into a thimble right now. So this offense is just fine. It's different looking, but it's just fine. Let's get to the news. We are almost through the first hour. We have not gotten through the NFL. I'm loving it. Matt Rule was fired from Carolina. 1-4 start to this season. 11-27 overall. The stat that jumped out to me: Carolina under Matt Rule was 1-27 when they allowed 17 points or more. So you get 2 touchdowns and a field goal on this team, it's over. Except for one time. So only his 3rd year in the league, part of a 7-year, $62 million contract he signed back in 2020. But my question to you, yes, Matt Rule was having a bad time and they couldn't get the offense going. But the quarterbacks he worked with was a aging Cam Newton, Teddy Bridgewater, Sam Darnold, and Baker Mayfield. Can you fully put all of the blame on Matt Rule for the offense never working?
No, I don't think so. I mean, especially when you have, and Carolina fans might hate me for saying this, but you have McCaffrey. Okay, and he's sometimes injury prone. Yeah, I mean, but DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. I mean, where you've got to have some weapons, but you also look at even the offensive line guys. You look at some of these line guys, and I'm like, okay, I don't recognize any of these names on.
Oh yeah, I mean
that's their problem. Is that they've got
personnel's bad.
Yeah, the personnel is terrible, and especially when the only name that I recognize on their roster is Bradley Bozeman, and he was a starter for Baltimore. Was a starter, and now he's playing behind Elfin, and he, just because he's he's been 5 years in the league, so I mean he's got a couple more years than Bozeman does, but still, I mean he's pretty much the veteran on that line.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think Matt Rule deserved to lose his job. He has definitely struggled, and maybe he is part of picking these quarterbacks out. It is an interesting case of going after that quarterback that did not work somewhere instead of drafting a quarterback. And obviously that's what Carolina was trying to do, is go out and it's like, oh, he didn't work over here, but maybe he can work with us. And they didn't have the quarterback coach to really fix him.
Right. So where do they go? I mean, they've got PJ Walker, who is the backup there.
Yeah, PJ Walker, I think, will be the starter this week.
So yeah, so who do they do? I don't even know who they have on their practice squad, because you got Sam Darnold on the IR, Matt Corral on the IR.
Well, Darnold should be back in a week or two.
So
it's going to be PJ Walker. Because you're not going to go out and try to get anyone else. It's going to be PJ Walker for now. When Sam Darnold's healthy, it'll be him, and Baker comes back, we will see how Sam does. They're 1-4. They're not competing for anything. They're not going to compete for anything.
I am also looking at just how many guys they have on the IR. 1, 2, 3, 4. They've got 8 guys.
They're the Baltimore Ravens of this year.
That's exactly what
they are now. Your number one candidate to go for the number one pick. So I don't think they're going to try to fix anything. What Carolina is going to do by firing Matt Rule in week 5 is start to go all in on one Sean Payton. They are going to just back up the truck and say, Sean, we want you now. You have full reign
of everything.
Fix us.
Yeah. Well, and so with that being said, there was different things that came across my phone today of Philadelphia. I want to say it was Philadelphia looking at Christian McCaffrey and trading for him.
Oh man, they could. That's actually I did not think of that.
Do you think they unload him?
Yes.
In the middle of all
that
of
is
this stuff?
Brilliant. Because you're going to get more for him now while he's healthy than you're going to anyways. I forget what he is signed for. And yes, of course, the next head coach would love to have Christian McCaffrey, but you're going to get some good draft picks for McCaffrey for sure. And then probably end up with another one pick on top of it. You can really start rebuilding your team. The Jets are only 3-2, and the Jets have a long ways to go. But look what they have done with the 3 first-round picks and that early second-round pick that they had.
So
you can make a big difference to your team pretty quick.
He signed, looking at this, 4 years, $64 million back in 2022. So he just
contracted
signed through 2025 with Carolina.
So if I ask you for 2 first-round picks, do you give them to me for Christian McCaffrey?
Well, let's see. You're paying him $11 million next year, $11 million in 24, and $12 million in 25. Yes, I would.
Yeah.
I mean, heck yeah. I mean, he even gets a $4.3 million signing bonus each of those years. Yeah.
So it's a good move. I agree. All right. I really want to get into some of the high school games that happen and stuff. But we got to talk about this because I teased it earlier, and now it's 45 minutes in. Roughing the passer.
Oh my!
This is how I fix it. We're not going to go way into the other. We already talked about the plays that happened. This is how you fix it.
My wife. I just now saw
the Ravens mascot is great. This is how you fix roughing the passer. We already have an independent person watching for concussions.
Right.
Have somebody up there watching the play that is only watching that. Do not put roughing the passer on somebody who's supposed to also be watching for holding and tripping and clipping and offsides and false starts.
As a lineman, there's holding every play. And we've talked about that. Every play.
But you just let that, that's what I'm saying, is you just have somebody in there and they buzz. Or if there's a question of it, college football has a whole replay system for targeting.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, will this slow the game down a little bit, depending on what they finally, if they can ever get replay to be more like Aussie rules football and they can speed this thing up. But say, hey, I believe there was roughing the passer. Then send it up to somebody who can actually see the play and watch a quick review.
How about from the backside of that and flip it the other way and say that wasn't roughing by that same guy?
Yeah, but that's the whole point. Yeah, so they could go, hey, I believe that was roughing. And they look at it and go, no, it wasn't. And we just move on.
Right.
Or they could go, yeah, that was roughing the passer. You need to throw that flag.
Because both of those plays this week are just, I mean, even listening to Kurt Warner talk about it this morning, he was like,
yeah, it's gotten really bad, and they just need to take it off the field, put it somewhere else so they can actually see the different angles and go. He was really trying to lay in on him, or he was really going for his knee, or yes, you need to protect your quarterback because the league is different if you start getting backups. Like, you'd much rather watch a Buffalo-Miami game with Tua versus Josh Allen instead of Teddy Bridgewater and who is it, Matt Barkley or whoever the backup quarterback is for Buffalo now. There's like, you're going to sell a lot more tickets with good quarterbacks, and I get trying to protect them, but it's gotten a little over.
So here's the thing. I mean, this boils down to this possibly costed Mariota coming back out and pushing the ball down against Tampa Bay. I mean,
for sure.
It's a 6-point game. They end up losing by 6. It's
for
easily could cost them the game. What and they always talk about it. And I know MLB is doing the same thing, speeding things up with the replay and all that. Yes, they slow it down a little bit, but do the 30-second break like they do commercials right now with a few of them. Let them look at it for 30 seconds.
You're not trying to determine if he stepped in or out. You're just watching a replay or two and going, yeah or no. And that's it. You can go by quick.
Yeah, give them 30 seconds. Let them. That's the big thing. It
should be egregious.
Well, that's the thing. It's these companies are donating so much money to Fox or giving Fox money, giving CBS money, giving NBC money. They need to get their commercials in. Okay, 30 seconds. Have a cut in. Let it look.
Yeah,
move on.
Absolutely. Same thing with what they're doing with the concussions right now.
You're a smart guy sometimes.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, let's get into the week 6 game. So you take a couple weeks off and you soften on me a little bit.
Yeah, I know.
All right, week 6 games to look forward to. There's some good matchups this week. New England and Cleveland, a couple of 2 and 3 teams trying to stay in playoff relevancy. That'll be fun. Minnesota at 4-1 at Miami. I don't think Tua is back. Teddy Bridgewater should be back. He was clearing most of his stuff, but I've not heard either of those. That should be pretty fun. You'd already brought up Baltimore versus the Giants. That will be a really good game as well. The game of the year, possibly, Buffalo at Kansas City. Sunday Night Football, 4-1 Dallas against 5-0 Philadelphia. That's fantastic. Monday Night Football, not as good. Denver at the Chargers, and we'll talk about Thursday Night Football when we do the picks. But, of course, like I said, I am going to Lambeau Field with Haley. We fly out on Friday. 3-2 New York Jets, 3-2 Green Bay Packers. Who would have thought? Yeah. Who would have thought they would have had the same record at this point?
I think it's going to be a great game there. That's one of the games that I want to watch this weekend.
Honestly, when we got the tickets, I was like, this is just going to be a cool experience. The game's going to be terrible, and the Jets are going to lose by 40. But at least we're going. Now, it could be interesting. I think
that game, and you say Buffalo, Kansas City, Also, Dallas and Philly.
It's a good one too.
That's a division matchup. It looked good. And yes, and you're gonna miss it.
I'm gonna miss both of them.
Baltimore's taking on New York.
I'll be watching the highlights when I get back.
I have to bowl against my daughter, so it's a little interesting. She's been
talk.
What
is TBS doing? There's a fake dragon that was on my screen. That was really weird. There's a dragon over Yankee Stadium. Whatever. Anyways, Thursday night football, Washington at Chicago. The one game I get to watch other than Green Bay and the Jets, and it's this stupid game. I'm going to take Chicago home team.
You have to work on Thursday night?
Nope.
No. So, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I'm taking Chicago home team Thursday night. Sticking with it.
Right now, Chicago is a 1-point favorite. I'm going to take Washington.
Washington looked okay last week.
Well, they looked okay, but just with everything going on with Carson Wentz and Ron Rivera this week, I'm curious what the outcome of all of this talk is going to be. Mm-hmm. And it's just going to be quite funny. Does Brian Robinson get another decent run against Chicago? And with the huge hype of him getting the start this last week and playing, I'm taking the feel-good story. Give me Washington, and I'm going to get a game gain on you.
Yeah, we're tied right now in the picks. The rest of our picks will be out on Thursday morning-ish, depending on schedule, but we'll get it out on Thursday. Get to our eliminator real quick. So far, I've eliminated the Patriots, Panthers, Commanders, and Texans. You have eliminated the Texans, Falcons, Patriots, and Steelers. Again, if you're just joining us for the first time, we eliminate one team every week. And then by the end of the 18 weeks, hopefully, we've eliminated the 18 teams that do not make the postseason. Just kind of an experiment to see if there are teams that we give up on too early and then they make a good run. We will see. You've already eliminated the Steelers and what Buffalo did with them and them losing to the Jets. I'm going to add Steelers to my list.
Yeah. And I know you took them week 2, but with the firing of Matt Rule,
it's bad.
And the possibility and what I think is going to happen here quite shortly, I think they move McCaffrey. Mm-hmm. Carolina's done for the year.
You know, I was thinking as the season was going on, we were going to get to a point that it was going to be tough coming up with a nominee because things are going to get tight. I have too many nominees, and I'm just trying to figure out which one to put out first. That's where I'm at right now. That's how
it's felt.
All right, let's quickly go through some high school football. White Pine League continues to be the class of the area as far as entertainment goes. The game of the week, Logos and Genesee. The lower half of the White Pine League combined for 140 points.
That's just crazy.
Logos wins 74-66. Jack Driscoll was a little underperforming in this one compared to what we've seen him for. Underperforming.
Not with these numbers you have
15 of 24 for 254 yards and 7 touchdowns. He also rushed the ball 33 times for 227 yards and a touchdown. Yes, that's underperforming because when he was the Tribune Athlete of the Week, he had every yard for Logos and he was nearly 500. And he was outperformed by Angus Jordan on the losing side for Genesee. There was a big difference for the Bulldogs when he was out for a week or two. About 16 of 29 for 356 and 4 touchdowns. And 7 rushes for 145 yards and 3 more touchdowns. So he went over 500 yards himself.
Yeah.
Over 1,000 yards of offense in that game.
And like you said, they're the bottom 2 teams in this division right now.
Not the exact bottom 2, but they're pretty close.
4 and 5, yeah.
Lapway, who is coming back from some injuries, beats Prairie 80-12. Prairie's now the one that's dealing with a lot of the injuries right now. Terrell Ellenwood Jones continues to be awesome. The surprise to me this week, not that Clearwater Valley beat Potlatch, but the fact that they won 20-6. Potlatch was averaging 50 points a game.
Yeah.
And they were held to 6 points. Again, injuries do become a factor there. And Cami continues to be the class of the White Pine League. They beat Troy 46-12. Couple upsets that happened. St. Mary's gets their first win against Grangeville. That's tough for the Bulldogs.
I don't know if that's an upset the way Grangeville's been playing, though.
But that's big for the Bulldogs, who I think they were overlooking St. Mary's to get ready for this Kellogg matchup that was supposed to determine their division winner. But St. Mary's wins it 18-6. and the Lewiston Bengals, who are on quite the roll. They go up to Post Falls and lose that one 42-35. From what I was hearing, obviously I missed a lot of it calling the volleyball game and caught the last 5 or 6 minutes on the radio. It was a great back and forth game. Jake Bustamante scores on a 5-yard run with just under 20 seconds to go. Lewiston was able to get to midfield, just unable to get things done. Sounds like a fantastic Inland Empire League game. But now the Bengals have to win their last 2 games against Lake City and Coeur d'Alene. Luckily, they are at home, but you have to win both of them if you want to stay in playoff contention.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I was a little shocked to see them lose that game just in reading the newspaper about how things went down. But with what coach is doing there, that they will be bouncing back, especially tonight. This week is homecoming week for them, if I'm not mistaken. So they've got to take care of business now.
There were a couple of games actually stopped short this week. Pomeroy was crushing Takeo Rosalia 62-0 at halftime. You weren't here the last 2 weeks, and I don't know if you were hearing these sections. Pomeroy, their last 2 weeks, had given up negative 90-plus yards on defense the last 2 weeks. They'd nearly taken back a football field's worth of the field throughout the games. They did give up 7 yards against Takeo Rosalia.
What's Richie feeding these kids?
I don't know, but it's been pretty rough there. Pomeroy now has scored 232 points unanswered in their games. It could have been worse. Again, 62-0, and that was stopped at halftime. The other one that was stopped at halftime, or actually it was before halftime. There was like a minute and a half left in this one. Kendrick beat Liberty Bell 30-0. From what I've been hearing, Liberty Bell kind of had a chippy hit that upset Kendrick. And then Kendrick just started really laying in on them. Liberty Bell's a smaller school, not a lot of kids. And literally the parents went, no mas. We can't take that. It was getting really chippy and pretty ugly out there. Kendrick is a team you don't want to mess with.
No.
In the Division or Class A Division 2, Dave scored 266 points unanswered. And again, that includes only less than half of a game in this one. So that team is ridiculous. Couple close. Washington came. Shadle Park defeated Pullman 30-24 in overtime on Thursday.
I watched the last few minutes on Hound Central, and Pullman had a chance twice and just come up short.
Yeah, that was a battle for first place in the Greater Spokane League. Clarkson now gets both of those two over the next 2 weeks. That'll be fun. Reardon beats Soton 23-21. Really close game there. Nice back and forth. The safety in the second quarter was the difference. Clarkson looked really good against Rogers 52-14 as they easily won on senior night, but Rogers has not been that good. Clarkson gets the big test this week. Lewis County beat Derry 18-14. Chelan beat Colfax 48-34. Priest River beat Orfino 33-18. Council over Salmon River 72-20. And Sunnyside Christian beat Garfield Plus 44-16. And I think it's Garpal that gets Pomeroy next week. So best of luck to that poor team.
It'll be interesting to see what they can do. Yeah, you look at those guys. I think the one that jumps out to me out of those Washington schools is the Chelan Colfax one. Colfax has always played tough up there in their division, but having a 1A team come in and take care of business at Colfax, it was interesting for that one.
Yeah, Colfax has really played a lot of tough teams. What is that? 2B school facing a 1A. And playing them pretty tough. Though talking to the coach, he's been very realistic about it. When you look at those scores, he goes, they go out and just railroad us for the first half, and then they bring out their backups, and then it's an actual game. Right. And then our kids are able to start turning things around. And he goes, it's not as close as it looks, but he has a lot of respect for those coaches that go, okay, his team goes out there, gets the win, then lets his backups get some work, and then they actually have a football game the second half instead of just running through them the whole way. So give credit to Colfax for going after that really tough competition. It's going to work wonders for them. They have a couple of division games coming up the next few weeks, and that competition should definitely help. Get the guest ready here in a second, but just have to remind you, you are listening and or watching to the R&R Sports Report. You can check us out on klcz.com or on the R&R Sports Report Facebooks and YouTube pages. We will get our butts kicked by the MMA group once they get through their fight in November. It's too close to fight night now.
And I've talked with a couple of them. They know everything that's been going on. Very, very supportive of me over the last few days, and they're still they're itching to get
absolutely.
Us. We will, to get us up.
We will let them get that fight mode out of their system for a little bit.
We'll talk about more.
We'll get that working. I know they are excited for their fights in November
5th,
and then we will get that going. But we're gonna have our guest on here, Shaun Pohlman, who is always a joy to have on. He'll come on during some of the post games and chat with me a little bit. We had you on last year as well, and we've already cleared away a lot of our schedule because we know you like to talk. But we're gonna have a lot of fun with you, Shaun. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, we're doing good.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. Quite the season so far, especially now that you guys are starting to get a bit more healthy. Nice 4-1 homestand.
Yeah.
Over the last 2 weeks, just that really, really close one against Corbin. But how are you seeing that team kind of shape up here the second half of the year?
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning of the season, you always have this vision for what you want it to look like, and right now we're living that. I've said this before, and Tribune had interviewed me after the game on Saturday, I think it was, and I basically, or maybe it was it Saturday?
Yeah, it was Saturday when Trevor was there.
Yeah, and it just I just said I think every coach is a little paranoid. You're always waiting for something. What's that thing that's going to happen that you weren't ready for? And so I kind of I've used this reference before in the past, but what was it? Eli Manning was watching Peyton Manning win in the Super Bowl, I think it was, or to go to the Super Bowl. I can't remember which one it was, and he's up in the booth and they're winning, and to every other fan in the crowd, it was like, this game's in the bag. And Eli Manning's just sitting there, stoic as can be, like focused, and a lot of people would say that he was jealous and everything else. And it's like, no, he's been in a situation where the game's not over till the game's over. And that's what I'd say. Our season's not over till it's over. And our team has asked a lot of questions about, well, if we do this, what does that mean? And if we do that, what does that mean? And I think at that point, all you're doing is you're asking for reasons to do more or try to do less of something instead of just be who you want to be. And we've worked really hard at trying to be what we are currently. And so I think the goal right now is to just not maintain, because you want to improve, but we don't want to go and think we got to do more. You don't have to overreach and overstep and kind of a hero mentality, right? Like, I'm going to be the hero today, guys. I'm going to be the one that saves the day, because then you kind of end up being a little more reckless than you should be,
It's a good way to put it, and I think that's kind of what the mentality might have been earlier on in the year when there was injuries. We saw.
You're absolutely right.
I had Cassidy Nelson on after one of the wins, where I just told her she went into complete beast mode in the third and fourth sets, and one of those wins where it just looked like she's like, all right, I'm taking this over. Kenzie Dean setting the Warrior record for most digs in a 4-set match. But now that you start getting things healthy, I've said this to Alicia. Obviously, at least 4 of the times, we might have talked about it on the close one with Corbin, but she will always ask me really close to the end of a match or at the end of the match, who do I want to talk to after the game? If they win, we have a player over. And I just look at her and go, I don't know. Because you look at the stats and you're like, they're all deserving.
Yeah.
And I think that's been a big key. Is it's not hero ball, it's team ball, and you look at those stats, and it's very spread out.
Yeah, it's a huge thing we've been going for sure.
Well, and that was my comment last night. Is as I sat in a different role last night, not being PA and sitting there, and the depth you have off of the bench as everybody played. I looked over twice and I saw Josie sitting on behind the bench, and she just antsy. You could tell she wanted to be out there. She wanted to be playing.
Yeah.
But that's the big plus with you guys right now. The depth on your team right now is just phenomenal to call anybody in at any time.
Yeah.
And for Forgash Aguilar to come in last night and become huge there towards the end of the second and going into the third was big.
Yeah. We haven't always we've been deep by force, but never by choice. And last night was by choice, which was great. We feel like we've always tried to we have some people that can't really practice, their bodies just can't do it. And they got to show up and play. And it's a tough balance for sure, but making things work so far. So.
And talk about some of these newcomers to the team, because we haven't had you on the show this year. Obviously, we talked about it a little bit during the games, but Esther Keely-Pony has been just phenomenal getting thrown in there as being your big assist player. And obviously, there was a couple girls last year in Ruffing and Hannah Martinez who are no longer with the team. And now you have Esther in there kind of taking over that role. And she probably is my favorite person to watch between points, because obviously the team is loose and they're having fun and they're cheering and getting into it. Esther has the funniest facial features every time, especially when she makes a mistake and she just gets into it. So she's one I always look at, but just kind of talk about her role and how important she's been to this team.
Yeah. I mean, I think a setter in any team is going to be vital and an important piece. And I think Esther's still learning everything she's capable of, there's still some self-discovery there, and I think what you're seeing between the points is still self-discovery happening sometimes, and to be quite honest with you, I think some of that's good. And then I think some of it can be harmful, if she's overthinking the last point versus just trying to create a plan for the next point. That could be kind of harmful from time to time, but she's done a really consistent job, not just, in setting, but one of the reasons she comes off the bench to start is because of her serve. She's really nailed down her serve, and that isn't how she started serving. Everything was super high and lofty, and just don't, be careful with it. And she's really learned how to flatten that thing down. And this is a game of processing information. So the faster we can hit or serve, the less time you have to process, and the less likely you are going to be to execute the skill. And so, Esther is a willing participant when it comes to wanting to learn, wanting to improve. She really wants more for herself and for her team. And I think that that's a great role model. We just have to make sure that we keep it focused, and she doesn't go too much is too hard on herself, or, she's trying too hard. And understand she's only capable of like her best. She's not capable of anything more than that. And that's why this will be an interesting thing for you guys. Do you believe in the 110% mentality? Because I don't. You got 100%, 110% of that water bottle right there is a mess.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? So I believe in 100%. And sometimes your 100% that day is 90% that day, just because there's things going on. And so just trying to help Esther stay on track with that. She's done a phenomenal job this year of being able to like learn and grow and improve. And one of the jokes on our team is anytime Esther introduces herself, she goes, "Hi, I'm Esther Keely-Pony. I'm a freshman." She goes, "I'm not a freshman," because one of the conversations we had is like, you can't be thinking that you're a freshman. You got to be thinking long term. Like, like right now, we can sit here and say, you're making a freshman mistake, or you're making this, this, and this. Think beyond that. Like, will you make this same mental error later on next year? We would hope that you're going to grow from it. And so that's kind of an inside joke on our team.
And one thing you said a minute ago, you really like what she does with her service. And we talked a lot about, Randy and I did prior to the game, calling on the radio and then listening. When we played Corbin, we only ended up with one ace in that whole ball game. And then over the last 3 games, and especially last night, Cassidy having 4, Juliana having 4 or 3, and Jenna having 2. The differences of how some of these girls serve. And we talked a lot about, okay, this looks like the way they're coached in Lewiston, how Jenna comes up to the line, what she does with her frame, compared to watching Cassidy, who takes that deep breath. And how do you coach those girls to do what they've been used to, but then making the adjustments into the college level?
Yeah, I think first thing is you got to observe and not try to fix something that doesn't need fixed. And so for a little while we'll make a lot of mistakes because it's like, okay, like what actually is working. And the funny thing, like for Jenna, she was stand floating and it wasn't working very well. Right. So I go, how about you jump float and just show me what that looks like, So she did that and I was like, ooh, I like that. Let's go ahead and do that. Well, that kind of, for one reason or another, really wasn't working out. So I said, okay, go back and let's try this instead. And so gave her a leash to be able to work off of, as opposed to, a leash long enough to experiment, but not one where she runs away. And so she made a lot of mistakes through those. Yeah.
The one thing that I catch myself doing, and this would be a great question for one of the girls next time they have them on, but I get so entranced by watching, okay, Cassidy takes that nice deep breath and then she's coming focused. But then you watch Gresha flick that ball so high up, Juliana flick that ball. As a player for the other side, how does that look?
Yeah.
For me, it looks like, okay,
you're getting a different view.
Yeah. I'm like, what's going to happen?
Right. Yeah. And that's by design. I mean, we definitely want somebody that can top spin. We need somebody that's got that hard float. And then we need the other pieces. Channa, she hasn't served much, but she stands way back there and just launches one far, which is a different view also. So everybody's kind of, I think consistency matters, but at the same time, like if we're lobbing it in, and a good example of this is against Corbin, maybe we only had one ace, but we got their libero pulled because of how bad she was passing. So maybe it wasn't always points, but it was easier balls that we were able to handle and convert into points ourselves through our offense instead of the serve. Yeah. Right. So, yeah.
It's just it's crazy to see, especially. Let's go in a little bit with that. Cassidy now 40. I want to say 44 aces. What is
somewhere
it?
In there?
Just how long do you guys practice just serving in a practice time?
Honestly, we have a warm up called 10, 20, 30, and we start at the 10, and then we progress to the 20, like 20 feet, 10 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet. And during that, it's 2 minutes per, so that's 6 minutes warm up. And then as far as like a competitive drill or something like that and serving, it's about 5 minutes. And then everything else is just through, competitive play, like 6-on-6 or something like that. So it's really, we don't really practice like the entire time because we have to be wary of their shoulders too. But we're pretty deliberate in our approach to practice. So at 10 feet, we'll be working on the toss. At 20 feet, we'll be working on the contact. Because if you miss hit, it doesn't really matter where you're aiming, right? And then at 30, we'll maybe aim at like location. Is it deep? Is it short? Is it how high above the net is it? So we try to be very deliberate in what our expectation of it is. And there's a term called fleam that we use. It stands for float, clean, seam, or flat, clean, seam. And so we want it flat. I talked about that earlier. Clean means that you don't want to miss-hit the ball. You want to hit it clean. And then seam means to make the passers move and have to pass that ball. Because if they have to move, if it's right at them, they don't have to do much, right? If it's between two people, they're now going to have to communicate. And that's called seam management. So fleam is a very big thing in what we do and we talk about regularly.
You're talking about the different serves, and it kind of got me thinking about the different attackers that you have and the different mind approaches that I've noticed that they have had. And I don't know if that's the way you guys have set it up too, or just the way the team has been built. But you see, Gracie goes out there and just absolutely crushes the ball for the most part. I mean, obviously all these girls will do something a little different from time to time. I think Nelson's one of the better people I've ever seen hit into the corner. I say ever. I followed the sport for a year and a half, and I'm an expert. But she can hit these back corners like nobody's business. Jada gets the most ridiculous angle on it.
Yeah.
But the one that really always impresses me, and she had such a fantastic weekend. I still have to bring her up, but Carly goes out there, doesn't hit the ball that hard,
right?
But she hits it just down the net perfectly. And while it's still at somebody, I just think the opponent just doesn't realize that she's going to hit it in their direction. So is that the same thing where it's like, okay, we're going to have the different looks, and it's got to be difficult to try to get those rotations in and try to figure out who's out there as well. But do you guys really try to put that all together and have the different looks out there? Or is it just kind of worked out that way?
Yes and no. We want everybody to hit with range, the ability to go line all the way to where kind of you're talking about where Carly hits, as well as, you know, we want swings, we want tips, you know, a lot of tools in the tool belt, so to speak. But everybody has a little bit of a strength than everybody else, you know, and so we try to play to their strengths as much as possible. We certainly don't want the same thing from everybody, because then that's going to be an easy thing to defend. And I think our hitting charts are pretty hard to, like, you look at our hitting charts compared to others, it's kind of like, that's pretty, you know, that's wow. I don't know where to play my defense. And there's some teams where it's like, we know exactly where to play our defense, and the ball's likely going to go that way, you know?
Yeah, it was just phenomenal to watch her placement yesterday. Sure. A couple just barely over, just right over the edge of the net. And you look at her and you think, okay, I'm going to get crushed right up there. But and that's the same as how we were talking about how deep they are on your front line. You've got, I think you can intertwine any of these girls in there, and then to have York come off the bench, and her to come and have a couple of big blocks, you know, in the game, and a couple of kills. It's just phenomenal what compared to looking at the team. Nothing against the Wolves, and I feel bad for them, 0-14, but when you only have one girl that stands 6 foot, I mean, how do you, you know, how do you go against some of the big girls of LC?
Yeah. Well, I'll go back to your comment about what kind of adjustments do you make on serving? Because this one just hit me. Grecia, early in the year, if you look at her, she statistically wasn't serving very many aces. And one thing that I noticed is most of the balls were going right at people. Okay, so that we're not getting the seam portion of it. She was going flat. There was speed to it. Okay, but there really wasn't seam. And I went, can you move your toss and your approach over? I'm not kidding you. 2.5, maybe 3 feet. That's it. And all of a sudden, her natural swing where she was going with it was naturally going to a seam. And so it's just kind of, what is it? How is it that somebody that serves this hard and this fast is not getting aces? And it was like, it was amazing to see what happened just moving 2 to 3 feet in one direction and moving her over. So I'm like, I like pat myself on the back for that one, because it's such a simple solution. But as long as your eyes are kind of open and whatnot, and I think the key is don't mix it up too terribly much, because then you have no identity, or they start second guessing, like, well, I've tried so many things. And so we just try to fix one thing at a time, you know, and let's work on this. Okay, we got that. Now let's work on that, you know? So,
all right, pick your brain real quick with the way the serves work. And you don't have to, like, delve into like secrets or anything, but one thing I always watch is how the coaches interact with the players and stuff. And we've talked about your cards that you use in the post game, and the green, yellow, and red, and how much they attack. But you also, obviously, you're hiding it from the other team so they don't know, but you're giving a signal to the server. Is that just to kind of say which side of the court you want it in? Is it like distance as well, or is it?
So there's a system, and I don't think it's a secret or anything. People could figure it out very quickly. This isn't baseball signals or anything, but maybe I should make them. No, I can't do that. We'll get confused.
It would be a lot more fun for us.
But if there's 3 passers, there's 4 seams. And so, you know, there's the sideline on each side, 1 and 4, and then in between 2 and 3, and it works from left to right. And so, you know, it's just a matter of what seam do you want to serve in. It used to be, or a more traditional look on that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because a volleyball court is broken into 6 zones. And so you're just telling them what zone you want them to serve. But when you tell them zone 1, well, there's somebody standing in zone 1. So what happens? You serve right at that person. And we don't want that. And so we changed this last year. Was the first year I went to or 2 years ago, maybe it was. I went to a 4-seam system. And I had heard it before. And then actually my assistant coach now, Dante, he was at his last college at the time, and we were talking, and he said he switched it over. So I kind of went, we're struggling. Why not? Let's do it. And so it's paid dividends pretty well. So.
Yeah, they always talk about NFL being a copycat league. I think that's just all coaching.
I think so.
You find something and it works.
Yep.
You guys, we've said it since we started doing the show that you guys are the most loose team in any sport that we've ever seen, and it's so much fun to watch. My question is, so you have the timeouts, and they're having their dance party, and I made fun of Dante about it, and he said whatever gets them going. If it takes a bad dancer to go out there, when are we going to see Shaun Pohlman?
I mean,
get in the middle of the dance party. Because I've yet to see it this year.
I've had 1 or 2 jigs, and we're gonna leave it at that. That's always that line of is there a professional line there? Like, but you also don't want to have a stick up your end either. Like, you also want to be loose. So it's a fine balance between the two, and I think you have to kind of read the room and read the situation a little bit and go, is this actually the right time for this? A little too loose is obviously not good either. And so, if I'm giving off the signal of complacency, it's not going to happen. If I'm giving off, I don't know, if I'm giving off this, it depends on the situation. If I think it's warranted, I'll step in and I'll make it very quick.
Right.
So fast that Randy can't
I'm not going to see it.
Yeah.
It's going to be disappointing. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one thing that we talked about that, and I listened to the interview with Dante the other day. What's it like having new coaching staff now? We do miss Drew being here and do that, but what's it like having Dante on the staff with you this year?
Yeah. So I don't know who knows this out there, or if even you two know this, but Dante and I coached together at my JUCO in 2014 and 2015. We were back-to-back national semifinal appearances in JUCO, so 1 win away from getting to the title game. And so it's funny because he was a sports reporter, and in 2013 he was at nationals writing about us, and then the next year he's our assistant and he's living it. And so 14, 15, he did that. And then he was able to get a head coaching job because, to be quite honest, a JUCO assistant coaching position isn't going to pay the bills.
Right.
And so being able to, we have kept in contact, weekly. Since we've stopped coaching together, at least weekly, sometimes multiple times a week. It was very rare we would go a week without talking to each other, and it just bounce ideas, and this is where we're at, and we would even like, hey, what do you think about this recruit? Or hey, we don't need this recruit. What do you think? Will they work for you? And so, it's crazy because as bad as Drew's timing was, and no fault to hers, and no one's, there's no hard feelings there. It just timing was what it was, And that was the hardest part for her to leave, was like, I don't know if I can do this because of the timing, and I was like, well, let me make some phone calls and let me start getting a list of potential, applicants, and where would this even be if we were to open this up, and everything else, and whatever else. And she knew Dante was on the list, although we had to really go through a process of making sure that he was qualified and all the bureaucratic HR stuff, so we had to make sure that all of that piece stood in line. But as bad as that timing was, to have Dante be able to come in, it was almost like we didn't skip a beat. He's not Drew and everything else, but he still brings something to the table that's an immediate impact. And I would also say having Mo back, Mo Ness, she's been phenomenal. She last year, you're fresh out of college, you just finished up your playing career, you don't really know where that line is, you don't know what to say or do. And this year, she's just one of the coaches, and it's been amazing seeing her growth as well. So we're very fortunate, we're very lucky to have the staff that we do. And I've asked the team multiple times, because Dante's a funny guy, and he's got a good sense of humor to him, but maybe not for everybody. I don't know, but I asked the team like, how you guys liking it? Yeah, they love him, and that part's also important. You can't have just a guy that I get along with or a gal that I get along with. The team's got to have a good rapport, and they do.
Well, even watching the Corbin game, as you were talking with individuals, individual players, both those, Dante and Mo, both right in the huddle and chatting and getting the attention of the girls. I mean, easily watching just from a distance how much they are grasping and getting them involved in making a change. So
without a doubt, we're like I said, we're very lucky. So
so we got 8 games left on the schedule. It's the end is coming up extremely quick. 6 of them on the road. Big ones this weekend against College of Idaho, which is it's just a rival, so that's always fun. You guys were able to beat them in 4 sets back in September. And then the big one against the number 1 team who just lost to Corbin last week, which was surprising. And you pushed them to 4 sets here at home and gave them a good test. How much, because we've talked about this before, it's just really difficult to focus on 2 teams at the same time.
Yeah.
Are you focusing more on College of Idaho because that's quote unquote possibly the more winnable game? Do you want to go out there really bad and get Eastern Oregon, or is it just you're trying to watch both and see how it lands?
We sent film last night after the game. It was up to the team to watch the film, and then this morning at 7:15 a.m. We were in scout mode together as a team, watching both College of Idaho and Eastern Oregon. I have the belief, just watching Eastern Oregon and knowing like where we're at, that we have just as good a shot as any of being able. The thing is Eastern is what they have. They have 2 things. They have a little bit more physical team than what we have. They're a little bit stronger in terms of just overall like height and strength, overall strength. And then mentally, they've got 9 years, 10 years, however long that coach has been there. They've got some longevity there. That they got kind of on their back, so to speak, to kind of help. They've got the experience that maybe we don't. But honestly, like I'm looking at this going, we played OIT earlier this year, had to go to 5. This time it was 3. Bushnell's a tough team, has beaten a lot of teams and has competed well, and we were able to handle them in 4. And then Corbin. Before the Corbin game, I told the team this, and I thought we were just so physically outmatched. I'm just like, let's just make sure we're competing and doing what we can. I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, this is college athletics at the end of the day. But if the realist in me went, yeah, that team's way more physical than us, and that's absolutely true. The team knows that, but there's a little bit of grit and heart in our team, in our gals, and that's the thing that's like keeping us in it, is that togetherness and and combined with the grit. Oh, what a powerful combination. I mean, and so I believe that we have what it takes to sweep this weekend and make it happen and win both games. We are not overlooking College of Idaho to get to Eastern Oregon, and we're not underrepresenting ourselves in terms of having to step out on the court at Eastern Oregon. That's a tough place to play. It's a smaller, way more intimate, in your face environment that's going to be extremely difficult. So it'll be a good experience for us, though. Yeah.
So I'll just bring up, we have one more home stand coming in a couple of weeks, but I just wanted to bring up the fact that the home crowd this year, I mean, obviously, when I first started calling volleyball, we were still with the COVID protocol, so things were a lot different, and you guys were pushed on the other side of the court and all spread out still. This year, it's kind of what is kind of back to normal, but that student section has been absolutely phenomenal. I'd have to see numbers, but it's bordering some of the basketball games that I have seen from LC. And with your team and the way they feed off energy, and you can just tell the difference between. I mean, yes, you guys kind of rolled Walla Walla, and it wasn't. Yeah,
But there was
it
a
was
difference.
expected, but there was a difference
There was.
energy wise because
Yeah.
it was a Monday game and nobody really
Right.
knew there was a game.
Right.
Compared to this weekend when it was homecoming and that place
Yeah.
had a ton of people in it.
did.
How important is it for you guys to have that fan base help bring
Yeah.
that energy for
Yeah,
you?
absolutely. I mean, when you're at home, you want to feel like you have some level of a home court advantage, right?
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be the difference, but it's got to be a little bit of a difference, you know? And
Mhm.
so, yeah, this year, and I've said it, I said it at our homecoming pep rally. I was like, man, it's just the energy on campus all together has been, it feels just amazing. And it's everywhere. I mean, it's
Mhm.
just, and it's electric. And, you know, I think in part, there's a lot of people, and I'm not even going to get close to thanking the appropriate people. So I don't really want to try, but
Mhm.
you know, I do know that student involvement, our residence life staff, the president, our athletic director, our new assistant athletic director,
She's been great.
has
Mhm.
brought a lot of fire and energy to and Katie Palmer is an alum, is a
Mhm.
volleyball alum here at LC, holds records herself, and brings what it means to have an experience at games, as opposed to you're going to a sporting event, you're going to experience something.
Mhm.
And so I think, you know, in terms of the overall campus, everyone's to really be thankful for that. Katie is certainly, at our games, just everything's a process now, and it's very specific and deliberate and intentional, and to the
Mhm.
point where it's like, okay, well, that we tried that and that didn't work, let's try something else. And it's gone down to the minute, and you know, it feels like a legit college experience, the best one that I've had since I've been here as well. So I'm looking forward to our future in that regard.
And you say that, and I think that's the big thing that I see is it's now that, and hats off to Alicia, you know, letting us do stuff we love to do,
Mhm.
calling baseball games, basketball and volleyball, and but seeing the involvement from other sports attending your activities.
Yeah.
You know, seeing Coach Johnson here, watching you guys play the other day against Corbin, also seeing the track and field team here. And then your girls going and supporting track and field, making signs, going up and visiting them, to them sitting in the press box with us during baseball season. And
Yeah.
everybody is following everybody
Yeah.
around campus. And I see that. And it's a huge, I think, a big change over the last year.
Yeah. It certainly feels different, and I know our team is super excited about it and appreciative of it. And you know, the amazing thing about our gym is the beauty and size.
Mm-hmm.
The detriment is the beauty and the size. And maybe not the beauty, but the size.
Mhm.
Because you take our crowd and you put it in another gym, and it's overflowing, you know.
Mhm.
And so it's hard to fill our gym and make it feel electric. So the fact that it has,
Mhm.
is phenomenal, and I'm absolutely grateful for that. And I'm hoping that it continues. And I'm always willing to do what needs to be done to make that happen too. You know, we've passed out flyers, and we've contacted people, and personally invited some people. This year, we established a host family program, for our team, and so a lot of those host families are coming. And it's been amazing because they'll come to our game, and then like our players will go to like their kids' game, like the middle school football game. The Sac versus Jennifer game was what, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks
2
ago.
weeks ago.
Yeah. And so, you know, my son plays on that, and they didn't come to watch my kid. They came to watch their host family's kid. And I'm okay with
Yeah,
that. You know,
yeah.
it's like they went so they could watch their host family's
Mhm.
kid play. And in turn, so it's really cool to see. There's a lot of different avenues coming into the mix.
Mhm.
And it's awesome.
Mhm.
I forget who we play tomorrow. If we play,
Come on, coach.
I don't
Are you
remember.
Clarkston?
Yeah. So
Yeah, you play us.
So
I think we're at your place.
You are.
Yeah.
What time are you going to be there?
I don't know.
Seventh grade, 4 p.m.
I think it's at 6.
7th grade, 4 p.m. 8th grade at 6.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
taking on Jennifer over there, so it'll be interesting to see.
They've done well so far.
Yes, both ball clubs have just watching Zach and Jennifer play. So
yeah.
Well, let's talk. One last thing. We'll wrap things up here with you. The next 4 games are on the road: Caldwell, LeGrand, Kirkland, and Olympia. Then we'll get back into the home games. Warner Pacific on October 28th. Multnomah then on the 29th. Any of those games stand out to the point of we have to, because we looked at the standings. 3 through 6 is such a
3 through 8.
3 through 8
is tough.
Is such a jumbled mess right now of could be going any direction. Right now, I think you're the hottest team watching out there, looking at stat wise at least.
Yeah, what I'd say is they're all of equal importance, and it's not. There's none that we want to drop, and none that's more important than the other. Even, because what I don't want to get in the habit of is saying, well, these 4 are important, then Warner Pack and Multnomah come to our place, and we say they're not important. So I think right now, if we're talking logistics and analytics of how to make the playoffs, my understanding is we'd have to sweep at home and at least split the next 2. The next 3 on the road. So 3 on the road, we'd have to split plus sweep at home. I believe that gets us in, but I created an Excel spreadsheet that allowed
he said like
to go, okay, well, if this happens and if this happens, then that happens. And we did that last year because we were in such close contention for that 6th place or 5th, I guess is what it was last year. But I just I looked at it and went, okay, we gotta split every game and win at home, and sweep Multnomah and Warner Pack, and we have a good shot. There wasn't a guarantee, but we'd have a good shot.
It just seems a little bit tougher of your final 8-6 are on the road.
I agree.
Home, so
and then it's Eastern Oregon, College of Idaho, it's Evergreen, it's Northwest. It's just and then we end in Eugene at Bushnell, who they're a ranked team. It's just they're not in the rankings. That's really what it comes down to. It's unfortunate because the rankings are such a dog. I don't know. It's a dogfight, I guess. It's just it's so difficult to get in. It takes you years just to get in. And if you don't prove yourself during the years, like Bushnell finally got in last year, well, they didn't do enough to stay in. So they pushed them, and they've only received votes this year. Well, they've been beating people, but not enough to get into the polls. Right. And so then we beat them, and then they're out. It's like,
but we can't get you.
But we can't get in because that's how it is.
Yeah.
And so the chances of us, our team asked, are we going to receive votes? And it's like, no, we're not, because this is a year's process. This isn't. I mean, even if we went out and if we would have beat Corbin, number 5, we still wouldn't have received votes. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy?
With the way you guys have been going and how tough that whole Cascade Conference is. It is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
He was saying last thing. I got one more thing because I'm double dipping. We're doing a story on Grecia and her sister, who's playing up at WSU. So I just want your quick thoughts on Grecia, so I can double dip and steal your quotes from my article. And also,
he'll replay this later.
100%, because I won't remember anything. And luckily, it's being recorded. I've used that before. But actually, now talking to both sisters, I had a lot of fun with them. I told them both. I go, obviously, neither school is going to let either of you go, and we're not going to have you two team up. But what would be more fun, teaming up again, like they did back in Mexico, or playing against each other?
Yeah.
They both have said playing against each other.
Yeah,
so
I bet they did.
We please figure out an exhibition game between the Warriors and the Cougars? Because obviously your sister's a senior next year.
Yeah.
I want to see that happen because they have both promised me a lot of yelling at each other if we make this happen.
I mean, I'd have to talk to the see what see what they have in mind. It could be something that happens like a scrimmage in the spring. Something along those lines.
Anything. I'm there for play-by-play for it.
Game.
Yeah,
Sign me up.
That's they're a fun family. I saw them play for the first time in Las Vegas when there's a big tournament down there over President's Day weekend, and man, I took one look at them and yet went, yep, that's if we could get her, like that's the start of something. And we were very fortunate. I put a lot of hours and a lot of work into recruiting her, and very fortunate. I think obviously the fact that that Argentina is at Washington State certainly helped our case. But Grecia had plenty of other offers, and so we feel fortunate. And now it's very much a give and take. She's growing and learning as a person, as a student, as an athlete, and the take portion is she's really giving a lot to the program too. And so it's been a great cooperation or relationship in terms of player coach and even player to player and everything else. She's grown a lot. So
I don't care if it's spring, summer, winter, during the season. I want to see that contest for sure. Well, Shaun, we very much appreciate it for you coming in and giving us your time again. I've been having a blast. We've had several of the girls on over the last couple of years, especially this year. And I tell all of them, it's like, I barely watched volleyball before. Now I'm into it. And I'm still trying to figure out all of the rules.
Converted you.
You have. You 100% have. And I think it's not just, the sport's very fun.
Yeah.
But just the energy, especially from the Warriors and getting to know them. I was having a conversation with Haley earlier. I think we've had at least half of the current team on this show, if not at least on the post-game show. Yeah. And there's not one of them where I got done with and went, I don't know if I'm a big fan of her.
Oh, yeah.
All of them I get done is like, she's awesome.
Yeah.
All of them are awesome, and they were great to have. So that helps too. Still trying to figure out all the rules, and I've just determined that the whole double hit rule is like pass interference, and I'll never understand. Or the balk rule. I think I used the balk rule as a reference. It's just when they'll call and I go,
yeah, it's a tough one. There's actually conversation to try to get rid of. There's a lot of traction to try to get rid of the rule because it's such a judgment call that, and the thing is not some people are just like, I'm not going to call it because I just want them to play. And others are like, no, that's the rule. So they'll call it because that's the rule. I've been on both sides. I've been on the side where it's like, it's still in the rule book. So you call it because it's in the rule book. And I've also been like, you really called that one, but you missed this one over here. And so it's a double-edged sword for sure. I'm not sure where I'm landing so far.
Right. Well, best of luck the next 2 weeks. I would love to lie and say I will be watching this weekend, but I will be at Lambeau Field this weekend watching the Jets-Packers game. So I'm not going to lie to you and say,
that's all right.
I'll be watching. But the next week, I definitely will. I've been watching a lot for the schools that allow me to watch.
Yeah.
I'm shocked that there's not people like me that do play-by-play for these other schools that I watch. I turn on your guys' stream and it's just dead quiet. So, Cascade Conference, if you would like somebody to do your play-by-play for the tournament coming up, I'm available.
We even talked about trying to get
me on the road.
Get you on the road doing some of the games. Eventually.
Maybe as a team gets better, we start getting ranked and noticed finally. If you keep putting in the work. But Shaun, I very much appreciate it. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. For senior night and senior weekend, like you said, Multnomah and Warner Pacific is October 28th and 29th.
29th. Yep.
Sounds about right.
Senior night, 29th. Yep. So
Shaun, always a pleasure, man.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
Pleasure. That is Coach Shaun Pohlman of the LCSC women's volleyball team, and they getting ready to hit the road for a couple big matchups this weekend as they take on Eastern Oregon and College of Idaho.
As we start wrapping up the show and get through the rest of the stuff, I knew the moment that Alicia said that Shaun was going to be on that I didn't have to take a lot of notes because He's always so much fun to talk about.
Just listen.
By the way, I'm just going to put this back up here again. How about them Yankees? Yankees get the win. They're up 1-0. They did not pull a Mariners and blow their game.
I do not want to talk about what I saw this afternoon.
Too bad. We're going to get there. More LC news that we have to talk about. Cross country hosted the LC State Invitational on Saturday as well. Both the men and women finished in 4th place over there. The men, their top 4 all finished within 10 seconds of each other. Bryson Kepton, Connor May, Griffin Parcels, and Bryson Brown, who was on the show last week, all finished between 17th and 26th in a 10-second span. So very, very close there. For the women, Geraldine Correa finished 14th and Brooklyn Shell finished 16th. And Correa was named the Women's Runner of the Week for the Cascade Conference. And for their efforts back on Monday and Tuesday, Alexandra Schmidt and Jorgen Vicken. Is it Vicken? I apologize, Jorgen, if you're listening and I'm butchering your last name. But they were named the Women's and Men's Golfer of the Week last week for their effort. So congratulations to them. Nobody's playing this week. So it was a good time to have Shaun come on. But yes, Major League Baseball is in the playoffs. I'm going to we'll talk about Seattle and their blow up. We only have 14 minutes left in the show. We still got to get our pick-ems and stuff. But I want to just really quick ask you, because I have been completely converted, but your thoughts on the playoff format now that we have seen the wild card round go through.
I don't know. I'm still, I would think it's better to have a best of 5.
You just cannot have teams miss that much time.
But then we're playing into almost mid-November if that's the case, or that's the big part of it.
Right now, it would not go into November if we didn't have the work stoppages that we did and kind of got pushed back 2 weeks. This was still supposed to end in October, but I'm in now. I thought with it not being a one and done situation like we had in the wild card game, I think that does make it a bit more fair, and you still get that intensity,
right? Because
even with that first game where it's not an elimination game per se, there's a lot of pressure on getting that first win, and winning your division still matters because you can get a bye, or at least you get the home field. And we had that great battle in the American League between the Blue Jays, Rays, and Mariners to try to get home field advantage to get, the help there. It did not help Toronto as they got beat, but
I think it's tough especially watching what happened to the Mets. I mean, you got your 100-win game season and then you lose, in 2 games over there. So that's a little tough, but I mean, I'd like to see at least a chance of them traveling and going to play in both ballparks.
Yeah, I think you start doing that, then it just takes too long. And that's what I like about them only being in the one park is there's no travel days. You get your best of 3 done, because it was going to be very interesting to see what these teams did, having that break. Obviously, it kind of hurt the Braves. It took them 7 or 8 innings to kind of get going against Philadelphia. They lose today 7-6. It took Houston several innings to get going against Seattle. They were able to come back and score 5 runs those last 2 innings, win it 8-7. By the way, I know the Yankees are doing it too with Jameson Taillon as he, I believe he was the one that came in and closed this game, but that was planned for the get-go. Throwing Robbie Ray out there to only face a lefty, and it's like you're not a bullpen guy, you're not used to being a bullpen guy, and we're gonna go out there and throw you against their best hitter was just a recipe for disaster.
I would never done it. I probably would have kept Sewald in there, one more batter, let him just throw slider, and just try to stay away from him.
Obviously, if he gets the out, it looks like a genius move. It does not work for them. That's a big blow for Seattle, especially after their crazy comeback on Saturday. And then it looks like they're going to take the first game on the road. And it just does not work out. As Richie said, I don't know if he's still listening, but the Mariners have just been eliminated from this series.
I think so too. I think that was their biggest chance to get out there early.
I do believe that there is no momentum in playoff baseball as far as game to game. Like, there's enough time off. Mariners and Astros don't play tomorrow because it'll be National League Day tomorrow, so they can kind of reset themselves. If you can still get the win on Thursday, it's still a split on the road, and that's the best case scenario you're looking for anyways. But It's got to be a body punch. Yankees do beat the Guardians 4-1. Still wish Josh Donaldson would run out his base hits, especially when they go off the wall like that. Nice to see Bader hit a home run. Rizzo with a big home run there as well. Good job by the Yankees. And the Dodgers already up 4-0. That's not going to be a series. It's just Dodgers are getting ready to play Philly or the Braves. Padres have 0 chance in that series.
Yeah, I would say hence the reason why I want to see a 5-game there. The Mets were the better team there and just lose in 2 straight.
All right, so that's your quick playoff preview or look at this week. We'll dive more into it next week, or you and somebody else will if I'm not back next week. Let's get into our pick'ems. And you weren't here for me to brag, and I'm a little sad about it.
A couple of good weeks.
Last week was silly. I go 14-2 in our pick'ems for high school and college. I went 6-0 in college, 8-2 in high school. Went 14-2 in our NFL
you got a
picks.
12-game lead on me.
I do extend the lead. I go 10-6, which is still a good week. 6-4 in high school, 4-2 in college. You were fine. You went 500 in both high school and college, which there were some interesting games that really shocked both of us. You're 59-41, which is good. I'm just
over 500.
Maybe working at the Tribune and seeing more of these scores and talking with the guys that get to go to some of these games has helped me. But I'm 71-29 on the year. Let's quickly go through our games this week. We don't have time to really break any of this down. Nope. Must-win game for the Bengals. Yes. They host Lake City. I'm taking Lewiston.
Same here, taking Lewiston.
Battle for what is now second place in the Greater Spokane League. Clarkston heads out to Pullman. I'm going to take the Greyhounds only because they're at home, but it would not shock me if Clarkston pulled it off.
I think they're going to play tougher just because of the loss that they came away with against Shadle Park, but I think Clarkston's going to come away and play it a lot harder. So give me Clarkston.
Moscow had the week off last week, now heading to Sandpoint. I only put this on here because there was not a ton of games. I think Sandpoint rolls.
Yeah, Sandpoint will dominate in this game.
Same thing here, Garpal versus Pomeroy. I believe this will be another easy win for us. Give me the Pirates.
Agreed 100%.
Cami has been really, really good. Genesee put up those crazy numbers we were just talking about with Angus Jordan. Could be a sneaky fun game. Maybe a good game, but I'm still taking Camia.
Yeah, Camia is just too tough for Genesee.
Grangeville was upset last week, losing to St. Mary's. I think they were overlooking getting ready for Kellogg. I still don't think they're good enough to beat Kellogg's, so give me Kellogg.
Yeah,
can you tell that I forgot Kellogg's nickname?
Yeah, it is the. I want to say Wildcat. And that's
it might be the Wildcats. Yeah, so, it might be right.
Yeah, give me Kellogg. I think they're just Grangeville's too young.
Speaking of Wildcats, the Lapway Wildcats against Potlatch Loggers. That'll be a fun one as well. Crazy points. Potlatch only scored 6 points. Lapway could score 70. I don't expect Potlatch to get rolled like they did, but Lapway is getting things going.
Healthy. That's the big one with that one. That's why I'm going Lapway.
Me as well. Prairie at Clearwater Valley. There's a battle for trying to make the playoffs. This is a big playoff implication game. Give me the Rams at home.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a dominant game up there, and I believe it is also homecoming for them this weekend.
It would not surprise. There's going to be a lot of homecomings in this time frame. Lewis County is at Lakeside. It's a non-league game. Lewis County has been really good. Lakeside struggled according to their records. So give me Lewis County.
Yeah, looking at records just alone and what Lewis County is putting on the board. Point wise, I'm going to take them.
And then the lone Saturday game, another fun White Pine League game. Troy at Logos. Logos has been so much fun. Give me Logos.
Yeah, I'm going to take Logos too. So I think we just have
one different. Clarkston and Pullman on Friday night. Should be the game I'm most looking forward to seeing the result for. All right, let's get into our 6 college picks. First for the local teams, Idaho. Very good season. Got the week off to prepare for the Grizzlies. They're not ready. They're doing great, but they're not ready for Montana.
If I'm not mistaken, Grizzlies are 5-1, and they're playing at home in Missoula. I'm taking Montana. Sorry
to all the Vandal fans out there. Washington State travels to Oregon State to take on the Beavers, who are a 3.5-point favorite. It's interesting. I'm still taking the Cougars.
I am too. I think it'd be a lot different if the Cougars would have held on to that game against Oregon, I think they get a little bit more notoriety. I think Washington goes into Corvallis and handles business.
It'll be an interesting game. It'll be pretty close. They do blow that game against Oregon. And that first half, they kept it with USC, but USC was just the better team.
Yeah, they're just way the better.
Number 10, Penn State at number 5, Michigan. The Wolverines are a 7-point favorite, and give me Michigan.
Yeah, give me Harbaugh. He's out there practicing with them. I think they're just too much for Penn.
Number 3, Alabama, 7.5-point favorites over number 6, Tennessee. That number is only because they believe Bryce Young is going to play. I don't know if he's going to be 100%. Ryan Needham never listens to the show, but Ryan, I'm taking your Vols for the upset.
Listen, if we knew that Young was not playing, I guarantee you that would be like a 3 there.
Tennessee might even be the favorite.
And they might even be the favorite. I was coin flipping back and forth typing this up, and I'm going to take Bama, but I think this is the college matchup of the weekend.
All right, number 8, Oklahoma State at number 13, TCU. I was doing my best because you picked yours before me just to have another one different. I could not disagree with you. I'm taking TCU.
Yeah, TCU all the way. And I think they cover the spread of 4.
Number 15, NC State at number 18, Syracuse, who is undefeated on the year, which is just Duke was playing well. Kansas was up there for a bit. Kentucky was a top 15 team till they lost a couple games. Now here's Syracuse. What is going on? Give me NC State.
Give me the Orangemen. Roll over the Wolfpack. Keep the undefeated streak going.
And the sports that don't get enough airtime this week. We are done with round 2 of the NASCAR playoffs with the Roval race where Christopher Bell needed a win, got the win. Nice decision with 5 to go to get tires. Do not, if you've not seen this race, do not go back and watch this race. Just go back and watch the last 5 minutes and watch the demo derby that happened. It is hilarious with these new cars where they're not as safe as the old cars, but they still at these road courses decide screw it. And they're going 5 wide into a tight corner, just going, I'll just bounce off of all of you. And if we wreck, we wreck. We see it all the time.
Dad and I watched a little bit of the Roval of the Xfinity races and watching some of those guys, no brakes. Here we go. Right into the wall and jumping over those turtles. I mean, just crazy watching them go through that Roval. It was a little interesting. I did not get to watch the NASCAR, the main race with them, but
F1 was in Tokyo and the rain caused havoc there. I actually got to watch that because with it being in Tokyo, the time was perfect for when we got done at the Tribune Saturday night, but there's a lot of rain and it was a messy race. The win by Bell does eliminate Kyle Larson, the defending champion. He was having issues with 5 laps down, but he is now out. So your final 8 drivers, Elliott, Logano, Chastain, Bell, Byron, Blaney, Hamlin, and Briscoe. 3 races, and then we get down to the final 4. Give me those final 4 drivers that'll go to Phoenix for the championship.
I'm going this way. I'm gonna do Elliott, Logano, Hamlin, and back and forth. Give me Blaney.
Give me Elliott and Logano for sure. Christopher Bell's been really good. He had a blown engine in Texas, which kind of put him in a bad situation, but he's been running really well. And there's going to be a wild card in there, so give me Ross Chastain.
Yeah.
Well, Hamlin is probably the safer bet. Give me Chastain just to kind of shake things up. South Point 400 in Las Vegas is the next race. What do you got in golf?
This last weekend, it was the Shriners Children's Open in Las Vegas as Tom Kim ends up winning by three strokes over Patrick Cantlay and Matthew Neesmith. He shoots 24 under. Joel Damon, the local boy, finishes tied for 37th and shoots 12 under. Has a great tournament.
Fine,
but tied for 37th as Tom Kim just runs away with it. This one, and I know you left this for me to say, that the Zozo Championship in Chiba, Japan, happening this weekend in golf action.
There you go. That is going to do it for this show. I put this in here because I wasn't sure if you're going to be on the show and we're going to have some fun with it. Maybe a new segment that we could do. I call it the final word on here, and I haven't even told you anything about it, so we'll put you on the spot. Just give me one word that's going to describe what you're looking forward to this week.
Looking forward to this week, boy.
While you think, mine is simple. It's Lambeau.
Lambeau for you.
I have not told you this yet. So obviously Haley and I going to the Jets-Packers game Sunday. Very excited for that. But on Saturday, we're going to go do what's called the Legends Tour. So we're going to go check out the Packers Hall of Fame. And we're going to get a tour, but by a former Packer legend. And we are getting a tour by Ahman Green.
Oh, that'll be awesome.
So that's going to be a lot of fun.
That'll be awesome.
So yeah, Lambeau is my final word. It was pretty simple this week.
For me, it's just got to be just sports in general, just sports. I'm excited to get back into it, start clearing my mind a little bit and getting back into a routine. But
well, I am very happy that you were able to do the play-by-play with me yesterday and kind of get you away for a little bit. It's been great to have you back. Obviously, like I said, Don Walden and Trevin Pixley, thank you so much for coming in the last 2 weeks. That was scheduled because you had football, not because of life stuff. But thank you to them for coming and covering, as well as we had Kenzie Dean and Kenzie Cloward on. We're going to have Cloward back.
Happy birthday to Kenzie. Yes. Kenzie's birthday is on Thursday. So if you see Kenzie around the campus, make sure you tell her happy birthday.
Absolutely. But that is going to do it for us. Next week, I'll just say it right now, we're going to be online only, just in case. We fly back Tuesday. I'm hoping to come on and do the show, or at least come on and do a guest appearance. Right. But just in case, obviously Robert does not have access to the studio. So next week, online only, just to be safe. But either way, Robert Hagan will be here. Hopefully somebody else will be here to help him. If not, hopefully I am back and we can talk about the Jets-Packers game and so much more. But that is going to do it for us. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. That's Robert Hagan. I'm Randy Isbell. Thank you, Shaun Pohlman, for joining us. But for now, we are